Okay, so good evening and assalamu alaikum to all those who have joined us today for third of its kind a session on non-academic careers series. This is part of JK Scientists' outreach series that we have started since a couple of weeks, and we are into third of its session related to non-academic career series. Today, our topic is a discussion which is based on clinical trials management, and we are joined by very special guest, Dr. Aparna Lakshmanan. Dr. Aparna is working as clinical scientific expert Novartis India. She's our guest speaker for today, and we are very happy to be joined by Dr. Zahida Kamri. Dr. Zahida Kamri is Research, Regulatory, and QA Coordinator at Cleveland Clinics, Ohio, USA. She'll be moderating this session today. Dr. Zahida Kamri is also General Secretary and Chair Communications for JK Scientists. Dr. Aparna will be with us for around 1.5 hours. She'll be deliberating on different aspects related to clinical trials management, and she will also advise students related to career opportunities in clinical trials. Dr. Aparna did her she has been working with Novartis since last 4 years and is currently based in Hyderabad. She also worked as a senior associate regulatory writer. She has had 2 years stay as a postdoctoral scientist at the Comprehensive Cancer Center, Columbus, Ohio. She also worked briefly for a period of around 7 years as a research associate at the Ohio State University during her graduate studies, where she extensively worked with different aspects related to writing scientific grants, Congress abstracts, and international manuscripts as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Aparna, for joining us today. And thank you so much, Dr. Zahida, for joining us today. Dr. Zahida, would you kindly introduce Dr. Aparna to the audience and now go ahead with the session. Thank you so much, Dr. Aparna, and thank you so much, Dr. Zahida.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Khalid, for the nice introduction. So I have known Aparna since a long time now. So we are alumni of the Ohio State University, and I'm so thankful to Aparna for taking her time this weekend to be with us. I know she is really, really busy with work as well as her family life. So I thank you. So today we will be talking about clinical trial management. This industry in recent times has enormously grown in an industry. So it's predicted that around $69 billion is expected by 2026. And according to the World Health Organization, there were more than 56,000 clinical trials worldwide in 2019. So it's like amazing to see that in a decade, it has like there is 20 times more progress in this field. And this rising demand of clinical professionals in this field, we can catch on that. And this is like a big industry. And we are not seeing enough of our students who can take this career path. So today, this is just a series where we want to get more information about how to get into this industry and what are the advantages or disadvantages, especially for the students of Jammu and Kashmir. As you know, that we are a little bit far behind from other parts of India. And particularly today's session, we won't be taking up the global thing, because for that, we need a lot of like visa, or there are hurdles. But if we see India as a booming industry for clinical trials, as most of the management is outsourced to India. And I had many such studies where my all regulatory documents, regulatory things were coming from India. So the management of clinical trials, I think that is a huge industry where the youth can fit in. So to start with, Dr. Aparna, do you have anything to say about this field? How big is this in India, especially?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Khalid, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Dr. Zaida, for the invitation, and really excited to be here and to be able to contribute something to young professionals. So absolutely, in India, like you mentioned, this is a booming industry worldwide as well as in India. There has been a lot of core-sponsor companies and contract research organizations, as well as clinical research sites, growing exponentially. So a lot of opportunities are there for young professionals. Like even like you said, compared to a decade back and now, there are a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
And I may add that before like a decade, we didn't know that these type of professional pathways or career options will be there. Like a decade back, we didn't know these things. So to set up the audience, like these are all mostly they are like science students, but we have non-science students as well to get the stage set for this discussion. Can we what's the difference between basic research and clinical research? So that will be the main thing that they must understand, the difference between the two.
Absolutely. So, so a lot of basic research, of course, happens in academia, as we know. So first of all, before moving on to this, let me talk about drug development itself.
Mm-hmm.
So drug development is a very long and risky process, right? And it takes about, say, especially in oncology, it takes about 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
And billions of dollars, involving multiple stakeholders to develop one drug.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that is the reason why some of the drugs are exorbitantly priced as well, in order to make up for these costs of developing a drug. And we can imagine it as a cone when we look at drug development. The first is the top, like an inverted triangle. So the topmost is the broadest, where there are hundreds and thousands of compounds. In basic research, we screen those compounds to see, okay, which might be a good hit to further develop. And then from those like tens of thousands of compounds, we narrow down to 5,000 or 5,000 to 20,000 compounds, say. So, and then after that, narrowing down during that drug discovery step, then we further narrow it down into, say, like 250 compounds. Then we do a preclinical research, where in animal models, we test whether the particular potential drug works as what we intend it to do. And then same, maybe we shortlist it down to 5. When we start like phase 1 clinical research, where, you know, initial safety, if it's a non-oncology drug, the initial safety will be performed in healthy volunteers. But if it's an oncology drug, even the phase 1, where there are like very few number of patients, we do an initial safety and a preliminary efficacy study. And then we narrow it down to one drug, which we further develop into, you know, phase 2 and phase 3 of clinical trial. And then it gets approved by FDA or other health organizations throughout the world. And that one drug is approved. And sometimes, even in the post-marketing setting, you know, like there might be some safety issues that the company has to withdraw that drug. And then again, this continues. Plus, this is not a linear process. It's an iterative process that goes along from one step to another. Plus, even before having that number of compounds, the other step, the initial step is to even understand the mechanism of a disease, what molecule in the cell we have to target. So those kind of research also happens in academia, right? Like that is what we called as basic, although it is actually advanced, but in the terminology, we call it basic research.
Basic, okay.
And when things move into humans, clinical trial, that is where the clinical trials come into picture. And clinical trial management itself is a very huge enterprise with a lot of different types of job profiles in order to make that entire enterprise work and to develop that one drug.
So yeah, in continuation to that one, like if we just think about the management, so I kind of divided it into like 4 parts. So first will be the protocol development, then study conduct, then compliance, then database, and then compliance. So these are integrated, all these things are integrated into the management. So if someone is good at scientific writing, so can you think that protocol development within that company is a good startup?
Yeah.
So who can go into protocol development? Because that is the initial thing, the steps which you said. So once we have one drug for one disease, so then the next step is the protocol development for the sites, or sites means for the hospitals who will take this clinical trial. So who do you think is fit for protocol development?
So, so in a way, writing, the skills you need for writing is a little bit different from what is expected for protocol development. So when you're in a protocol develop, so maybe we can go start from,
Go back.
Maybe we can split the question into, okay, like what are the different types of writing in clinical trial management and who can go into this?
Yeah.
So one is regulatory writing and the other is scientific writing.
Mm-hmm.
And different companies may call it differently. Sometimes scientific writing may come in medical communications and so on. So even before we go into protocol, although that is the first step in a clinical trial, there is a lot of scope for people to go into regulatory writing and scientific writing, where in regulatory writing, people write clinical study reports and safety reports and the other information where we summarize the results from clinical trials that will go into the submission dossier for health authorities. So that encompasses regulatory writing. And in scientific writing, people would be involved in creating abstracts, writing conference abstracts, and writing manuscripts based out of the clinical study report. So scientific writing is more closer to what we would have had a direct experience in academia, right? Like conference posters and manuscripts and other medical communication documents, whatever is required. So those two are the main thing. When we talk about protocol development, at least from my exposure here, that requires a little bit more of experience in the industry, in the clinical trial setting, so that people can give inputs into protocol development, because that also requires more of a clinical trial and clinical trial experience in a sponsor or CRO setting. People.
And do you think that MD, PhD, or MD doctors will be more fit into this one, the protocol development? Because here, if we see the doctors, they are actively involved in protocol development. But what about the scenario, what you have experienced in India? Do the doctors play a role in protocol development? Because we have so many doctors in Kashmir who are into healthcare, but what about then protocol development? Can they be one of the resources?
So how it works is, usually there is a writing team that is separate from a clinical development team. So so the writers would write a document, and the clinical development team, which is involved of say, clinical development directors who either have their PhD degree or MD degrees, they would review the protocol and give scientific inputs into it. So immediately, we may not be able to get into that level when we enter the industry from either academia or from medical practice. We may have to start at a different level.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
So, okay, what I got is that they need to have some experience about the clinical research first.
Yes.
And then they can enter into this level. Am I correct?
Correct. So, so even the writers may have the same degrees, may have their PhDs, may have their MDs, or may not have their MD, PhD, or MBBS, anything. They may be like master students or bachelor students, or they could also have PharmD or BDS or alternative like Ayurvedic medical degree and such. But in order to give inputs into the protocol, you will need a little bit of experience in the industry. But there might be sectors where, like I mentioned, regulatory writing and scientific writing, there is maybe some companies and some contract research organizations might have a separate writing group which looks into the protocol. But at least from my experience, it is usually we need to be in clinical development to be able to develop a protocol.
Okay, got it. So, but there is scope for the basic writing if they want to go into this industry, who have a great scientific writing skills, so they can enter into the entry level.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And then the study conduct. So I'm not sure, like in Kashmir, we have and not many clinical trials going on in the hospitals, and there is already like cap. The study coordinator can be one, and then they are done. But what about other hospitals in India where non-MDs or non-MBBS students who have a scientific, who have a science degree, can they enter into study conduct?
Yes, and study conduct is another huge area, right? So there is a lot of things that need to be taken care of from the sponsor side, from actually the site, like the hospital or the research site itself. And also a lot of sponsor companies would outsource the study conduct activities to contract research organizations. And there are a lot of clinical research sites or hospitals in India that are participating in global clinical studies, especially more and more in the last decade. Like in a lot of different cities, major hospitals, they are participating in clinical trials where we can, there are opportunities for students and professionals to get involved either from the site side, like clinical research associate or clinical study manager, but also from the sponsor side or in a contract research organization setting, where we need to do a lot of real-time data review, data analysis to make sure, and if something is not going right, we need to query the site in the database wherever they enter the data. So when we look at, first maybe we can split the opportunities under study conduct into three different things. Like I said, the research site itself, where there are opportunities to serve as clinical research associates or clinical study managers. And
or CRA,
CRAs, CSMs, and of course different companies would call this profile differently. That is also something that we need to learn by networking and also reading different job profiles and understanding. Maybe one company might call it trial lead. One company might call it delivery manager, like study delivery manager. Like so, but the job profile of both might be the same. So when we put some keywords to search in like potential jobs, right, we need to know
which terms to use. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so as CRAs and CSMs from the site side, and from the sponsor side, there are opportunities to be a trial manager, a trial director, or trial lead, delivery lead, whatever we call. And also from the contract research organization side, very similar roles. Because a sponsor company would outsource these roles to a contract research organization. So yeah, so there are opportunities in study conduct in these three different sectors.
I don't know if our audience understands about the CRO, like that's a new term for them. So can you just briefly tell us like how does that work? Like basically this is the outsourcing of clinical trials through that. So that is kind of a middleman who works with the site and then reports to the sponsor.
Right. So, so examples of contract research organizations here would be Parexel, Wintiles, Icon PLC, and of course their names keep changing, so we need to keep a tab on their names. But basically, what they do is, like examples of core sponsor companies would be AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Novartis, etc. Right? So they would outsource certain activities like trial management and making sure that trial conduct goes smoothly to a contract research organization. So for a contract research organization, these different core sponsor companies are like clients. So they will work for multiple clients, Genentech, so on, like so many different core sponsor companies. So if we are a part of a contract research organization, we may get assigned studies from many different sponsor companies. It's just like like an outsourcing where the sponsor companies are clients, and whatever assignments are given to you, you are supposed to execute them really well. Yeah. But the ultimate responsibility of the trial conduct lies with the sponsor.
With the sponsor,
Yeah.
So like we have here clinicaltrials.gov. So in India, do we have any site where the students can go and see where exactly the trials are? Because they will show the sites as well who are participating. So if in India, like AIMS or any other hospital is taking part, so it will be there, and then it will have the PI's name as well. Do you have any like site for that?
No, a lot of studies are global because whatever co-sponsor companies I mentioned now are like global companies which have presence in India as well, right? So even in clinicaltrials.gov, we can see if India is a site and if it is participating in that global clinical trial. Yeah.
Okay. And then coming to the next phase is like the database. So where I see a lot of scope for not only science student, but non-science student as well, who can benefit from this niche. So can we talk about that portion of the clinical trial management?
Right. So of course, database and data management is another huge how to say division in itself, and it is very important, right? Because we need clean data.
Like
reliable data. Absolutely. So so there are different opportunities here. So there's something called pharmacokinetic expert, where like if you are a PK expert, you have opportunities to get involved there. And especially people with medical degrees, they can be involved in pharmacovigilance to keep a tab on the safety data. And now data scientist is the in thing, right? So like if you have all this bioinformatics, all the like IT knowledge, you can bring that into being a data scientist profile or into data management. And statistics is another very important area. Like if like statistics and bioinformatics are still one of the highest paid roles. So like people can pursue even a PhD in statistics, and that's very, very valuable. So these are some of the things in data management. However, for say, like I mentioned, even people outside of sciences, right, who are experts in information technology, they can be involved in these roles. However, a basic understanding of biology would definitely help in going a long way in understanding the study so that you can tailor your job accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a basic understanding of biology would be absolutely helpful for their own growth and for performing really well in the role.
Yeah, that will help a lot. And lastly, what about the compliance? So here, I think rather than like database, the compliance will have a larger portion for non-science background students. What do you think about that?
Right. So a lot of different roles, even within study conduct or within database management, part of the job profiles would also involve compliance, because compliance is like quality assurance and compliance is everywhere, right? So so part of some of the other profiles will also involve these activities. Like for example, even under clinical development, people would be involved in making sure that we are audit and inspection ready, and take part in multiple quality assurance initiatives. But of course, there are a couple of divisions themselves, like quality assurance, compliance, regulatory compliance divisions, where you don't necessarily have to have a scientific background, obviously, but you need to be really good at understanding the enterprise, and like all your detailed oriented qualities would be helpful here. Because you're making sure that everything is as per process, and all the necessary like quality assurance steps are being followed. So and there's also something called as regulatory affairs, which is different from regulatory writing. But in regulatory affairs, people would be involved, okay, like in which country to submit this application for this new drug first. What is the timing? What is the competitors' landscape? So all like understanding all those kind of things. So there are opportunities there.
Legality and the guidelines also, like someone who is very much interested into law, I think that that also chips in if he or she is interested in this.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's not necessarily necessary to have a legal background. But
like I mean to say, like there are law students who don't know what to do next. That is the mindset of every student. The what to do next. So rather than going to the conventional route, so let's take a leap into this one. So that's what I mean to say, that once you have that mindset that I'm into legal thing, so they can just jump into this one, because there is a mindset that no, it's only science, like clinical trials. I'm not a science guy, so I cannot. But this program, I think I wanted to emphasize that science is not only like knowledge of science, but it's a collaboration between different departments, between so many companies together. They come and they make it a success. So they should also listen to this program, and I think like they will come into the picture at this level. Yeah,
absolutely, because legal the presence of legal is also everywhere, right? Like not only in finance, but also in pharmaceutical industry, in hospitals, and in so many other sectors. So, so definitely people can move around to learn the entire gamut of things under legal.
So one of the goals of JK Scientist is that we have to break the norms. You have to explore, you have to take risks, you have to know other fields as well. So going by the conventional routes into all these professions, I think that is a huge barrier to one's growth. So that's why I am emphasizing that non-science people can go into all these things. So since you have been a research scholar and a graduate student doing all the wet lab and mice models and whatnot, so we have together been into that. We won't go into that one. But I wanted to know how difficult it is to transition from a wet lab to like, this is kind of an administrative job. This is not you hands-on, you are doing the wet lab. So what are the pros and what are the cons of going from academia to industry or to this type of job?
Yeah, so maybe let me summarize the questions. One is how challenging it was to make the transition. Second is what are the pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an element of challenge, obviously, to move from academia to industry. I would say the first barrier would be ourselves. The first thing would be to make that decision, to do that soul searching and make that decision whether we want to move. Okay. Once you are clear that, okay, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in academia, I want to move to a non-academic career, then there are a lot of plans and strategies that you need to put in place to help yourself make that transition. One thing is, of course, networking. And when I say networking, it is not just superficial networking for the sake of it, for the sake of getting benefits, right? You really have to nourish those relationships, keep in touch genuinely, and contribute in whatever way you can. Either by contributing, it's not that you need to take a lot of time and effort in contributing to something or someone, because that is not always practically possible. It could just be a genuine appreciation to someone's achievement, like in their professional or personal journey. So so we need to make sure that we develop a good network. And we will talk about the details of networking a little bit later. I'm sure you're going to ask more questions on that. And the second thing is to have certain, okay, maybe to understand what are the different options out there and narrow down to 1 to 3 non-academic careers that you're interested in. Again, it requires a lot of soul searching, a lot of homework, maybe a lot of informational interviews to people who are actually doing that kind of job, and make sure that that would be the right thing for you, for your personality, for the phase of life that you're in. So hone down 1 to 3 non-academic careers, and then gather more information on that. And then the third step would be to further invest. Like once you are sure, okay, these roles would be good, then invest your time and effort and maybe a little bit of money in some cases in learning learning more about those roles, maybe do a short course. Now, a lot of courses are there in LinkedIn or Coursera available for free. So we can also do that. But there are also opportunities, like if you're part of a university, there might be some course or even some degree that you can consider. And because you are in that university, the university might consider giving a subsidized fee or cover your fees. So there are multiple options like that. So explore options like that, and be equipped and confident that you have prepared to make that transition before you sit in an interview, right? So that would be really valued when you go for an interview, or even apply even before the interview step. When you put those things on your CV, people know that you are taking this transition seriously. You have spent some, you have put in the effort to make this transition. So that will make you stand out.
So that is about like PhDs. So what about someone, like what advice will you give to someone who is at a bachelor's level or a master's level? Because in India or in Kashmir, like this is a mindset that if you don't go into a professional college after your 12th grade, then you go into like BSc, MSc, PhD. So they go on acquiring the certificates, but not the knowledge. So this trend has to break somewhere. So even if I am a bachelor's degree person, so why should I go to master's? Why don't I start my career at a like young stage? So why do I need to go into master's when that job requirement doesn't need it? So
Absolutely.
like we see in US, so we are like supervised by a lesser degree holders, because here the concept is that why should I go in, but the trend is still there in back like in Asian countries, that they go on accumulating the degrees without knowing where they are going. So how to get this over, like where to stop it? What do you think that needs to be done?
That's a great question. I even had a point to discuss here, that when I talk about, okay, try to learn more, or like do certificates or some courses, definitely we need to remember to balance that. We need not go overboard with trainings or certifications, because experience in the job itself is valued more than any education or certification, especially in India.
Yes.
So one suggestion which I also followed in my own life is that when you are doing your bachelor's degree, make use of every holiday or opportunity towards internships and towards developing your skills. So like even if we Google, I also have a few links and resources which I can share with Zahida later, and she can share with the entire group. So there are a lot of opportunities to do internships. Even when I was an undergraduate student, there were opportunities in AstraZeneca and other companies to do short summer internships, or even like a few weeks in your winter holidays. So make sure you do all these internships either in the academic setting, or in a clinical research site, hospital, or in sponsor companies. But opportunities in sponsor companies may be lesser than opportunities in academia or in research sites. But there are a lot more opportunities opening now in contract research organizations as well. So do those internships, because there is a saying, right? Even like ask me to read, I will take only 10%, but ask me to do something and I will take away 90 to 100% from that, right? So absolutely hands-on experience is worth more than anything. So my humble suggestion would be to make use of every holidays during your bachelor's degree towards internships in any form or any place.
And to continue this think so. Are there any like job fair conducted in any part of India, or like in here it's a routine thing to have job fairs? So since you are on ground there, do you think that you have come across any job fairs in these years?
So it's definitely more through networking that we find that we would be able to land up in a good job. But there are also, like in India, websites like monster.com or naukri.com. If you really have a good resume, good online presence, if you put your CV there, you recruiters are contacting people. Plus, campus interviews are available from sponsor companies only in certain top institutes, not in
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah,
That's not
that
a norm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
but if people get to go to conferences, either within India or outside, instead of spending a lot of time in scientific talks, I would suggest to spend more time in the booths. And even before you visit a booth, do some homework about that particular company or industry, and then really add value in the conversation. And visit them only if you're genuinely interested. You don't have to just spend time just for the sake of collecting a card and say, oh, like I have like 100 cards from this conference. That is not valuable networking, right? So make sure you're genuinely like, even before you go to the conference, look at who are all going to come to the booths, and then shortlist who you would be interested in talking to, and do some homework on their company, their flagship molecules, and then really add value when you talk to them, and try to see whether you can link your work to whatever work that they're doing, and then have a conversation. And once you're back from the conference, make sure like you send them a LinkedIn invitation or an email saying that thank you for spending that time, and try to constantly keep in touch with them. Like either by wishing them for a new year or any festival, or maybe they transitioned to a new job, they added a particular skill. Like try to keep in touch with them, and then like maybe message them in a really nice way that you want to further connect with them to understand the different types of roles that there are in the company, and then try to talk to them and gather that information. But that also depends on how you are approaching them, because of course those people would get hundreds of such communications in LinkedIn and over emails, and they should really want to get back to you by looking at your message. So it should be that professional. You should be adding value, and you should be genuinely wanting to talk to them, right? Yeah.
I was just going back to my conferences, so I never ever thought that I will just talk to them, like, because the mindset was that we are into academia and these are like some sponsors, so we don't know about them. AstraZeneca or this, okay, they provide us with lab equipment, with chemicals, and that's what our mindset was. But now I feel that, oh, if I would have talked to them regarding my career options, things would have been different. So yeah, I think rather than going from one abstract to another, and then going for the lectures which we already know, or which is not our one of the favorite topics, so it will be worthwhile to invest our time into these booths, because they may offer like your future career there. Yeah, thank you so much for taking us into that angle, because everybody thinks differently, and you have given us one direction. Yeah, I hope future conference goers will keep this thing in mind, and just take your point with them. So yeah, I think about networking, do you have any thing more to say about healthy networking? How and like basically how to approach, and then to sustain that relationship, that after like 1 or 2 years that person still remembers you.
Yeah, I think pretty much while answering the last question, I answered most of that. And of course, from like say hundreds of contacts that we gather, we will not be able to maintain like that kind of relationship with all of them. But we will be, but we should be at least able to nourish that networking relationship at least with a handful of people, because all we need is just one job and one recommendation finally, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that's what I feel. The first step should be to add value, to be genuine, and really nourish that relationship by frequently keeping in touch, by appreciating something that they achieve, by wishing them at different occasions, and also try to set up an appointment if you can pick up the phone and have a short conversation sometime, because people are busy, right? And they might not always, I mean, like as much as they want to help people and spend that time, that might not be on the top of their priority list, right? So be courteous, be patient. Sometimes they might not respond, but try to follow up after a week or 2 weeks. And then they might be like, oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't get back to you. Sometimes even the most genuine of people who want to help, they might be in a really busy or stressful phase of their life. So for months, they might not reply. But like later, if you follow up, they might get back to you. So if you don't get a response right after your first email, don't lose heart. First email or first message in LinkedIn. Try to, like be perseverant, but at the same time, be very courteous and patient as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And actually, one more, one more thing to add here. Say, for example, you have graduated or you're going to graduate and you've decided that you'll apply for this job in a particular company. And at that time, don't go and search, oh, who are all the people in this company? And then message them, oh, I'm planning to apply for this job. Can you refer me? That is not seen as a really good way, right? Because if somebody is referring you, they are putting their credibility in line for you.
Correct.
So they need to know at least a little bit about you, your work, and your personality, whether you will be able to carry their credibility. So it's not like, oh, anyone can refer anyone like randomly, right? So just that is something to keep in mind, and also put yourself in their shoes.
How can you vouch for a person who has just randomly emailed you or messaged you? I agree. And we have been telling this to our members a lot of times. Khalid, do we have live questions?
Yeah, just a moment, Dr. Zaida. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Aparna and Dr. Zaida. So first, I think we have with us Muntaha. Muntaha, are you with us? You can directly interact with Dr. Aparna. Muntaha, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. My question is, how impactful can it be if one's research in one's research career, if someone opts post-marketing clinical trial of any drug as a topic of their master's or PhD thesis?
So if I can just summarize that, you're asking how impactful would it be to do to make this transition if someone worked on a post-marketing clinical trial in their current degree? It would be absolutely very, very valuable to do that. That would really help you to make, that'll definitely help you stand out in your CV and in your interviews, because you have that experience. You will be able to talk the jargons, and yeah, that will absolutely be helpful. Because even in my case, after my PhD, I did my postdoctoral research, and in my postdoctoral work, part of my project also involved working in a clinical trial, that was a really impactful clinical trial, which was part of the Cancer Moonshot Initiative of ex-Vice President Joe Biden, in an AML study where Ohio State University was a really main site to do that, and my postdoctoral PI was
One of the
person in that committee. So
Mm.
I used to talk to him and get his permission to attend the clinical trial meetings. Although, like my research work itself, I don't necessarily have to go and attend those meetings. But then I took that extra step to go and attend those meetings. To maybe the first few meetings you might not understand what's going on. That's okay. But then eventually, at least you will understand who are the different stakeholders, what are the kind of things they discuss, what's going on. And then you will pick up those jargons, which will be helpful for you to present yourself better in your resume and in interviews. Plus, yeah, I also started a master's degree in clinical research, which was offered by Ohio State, and it was fee was covered for employees there. So that was a good thing that worked out for me. Although I did not complete the degree, just doing a couple of semesters there definitely helped me because it had a lot of hands-on assignments, writing a lot of articles, reading a lot of things. It definitely helped me to pick up the jargons and ace my interview. So those kind of experiences are really, really valuable.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Muntaha. Thank you so much, Dr. Aparna. We have with us Anuj. Anuj is our Sprout mentee and is a very dedicated member of JK Scientists since long period of time. Anuj, are you with us?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, for such an informative session. And actually, I have a question that as you are talking about these clinical trials and all
Anuj,
that,
sorry,
so
I have to
there
interrupt
is all
you.
the
Anuj.
concept of this emergency use of drugs or vaccines. So what? How? Okay.
Anuj, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. You're not audible to us. I mean, we cannot actually infer what you are saying.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Same issue, same issue. Your audio is not clear.
Okay, just
Type the question somewhere so we can still answer that, because your voice is like dragging and that's not very clear, Anuj, although we are able to hear you.
In the
Do you want to
meantime,
type your
next
question in the chat box? Yeah. And in
Yeah.
the meantime,
we can take another question. We'll get back to Anuj later.
Okay,
Yeah.
Anuj, we'll get back to you. So we have one a very important question from Dr. Parvez Sheikh, who works at the Center for Biomedical Engineering, IIT Delhi. We lost him. The question is, I will just put it to you, Dr. Aparna. How do you see that the present gap between industrial, clinical, and applied sciences in India can be overcome for better collaborative research with successful clinical translation?
So the question is, now there's still a gap in collaboration between academia and
Yeah, between
sponsor, and how we can
industrial,
overcome that.
clinical, and applied sciences in India. How can we overcome that?
So at least from my experience, what I've been seeing in the last decade now, there is a lot of like people from different sectors talk to each other actually, and like even during the COVID and after COVID especially, right? Different sectors, academia, sponsors, CROs, the doctors, research sites, like everyone is a lot more collaborative than before, is what I feel.
Yeah, but still there is a lot to add. Yeah, like not many research institutes are collaborating with the industry one. I think that is his question.
Okay.
But we are not in those shoes that
sorry,
we can
am
make
I
a
audible now?
difference.
No, Anuj, it's still same. It's still the same. I think Anuj's question is around emergency use of vaccines. Anuj, if I'm audible to you, I think that's the question that you have sent to us also.
Am
Dr.
I
Aparna,
audible now?
no, Anuj. It's still not clear to us. Dr. Aparna, Anuj wants to ask a question which is related to emergency use of vaccines. and drugs. So how important are clinical trials when it comes to the emergency use of drugs and vaccines?
Yeah, that is a great question. And of course, um, as much of an emergency a situation is, we want to try our best to make sure that the drug would still be safe and effective. The vaccine or drug would still be safe and effective for the particular indication. But when time is a constraint, definitely the regulations also need to be tailored according to the emergency situation. So the protocols and the objectives of the study, everything needs to be designed in a certain way that when we balance the risk benefit, the benefit is still higher within the given time constraint.
Thank
And
you so
I
much.
think
Please.
the main thing is that what we are seeing, like emergency use. So where we take like phase 1, if we had to take like 10 patients, but we take like 5 of them and analyze the data and then give it to the second phase, third phase. So it's not that any phase is missed, it's the number, and then the side effects and everything is evaluated within short period of time. Like if it is like 4 weeks for a normal study, it will be like just 2 weeks. So the people and the funding goes into that clinical trial more. That's why we get this emergency use approved.
Right. Plus
Yeah,
the
I just
criteria
wanted to add.
criteria for inclusion and exclusion in a study, and even like data analysis, everything. Like for a non-emergency study, you might have standard timelines.
Yeah.
With that, but for an emergency indication, everything would be expedited. So maybe you're putting a lot more resources to do the data analysis quickly, to do certain other things quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, all aspects of the clinical trial need to be delivered in time. So yeah. Plus, I think I did not yet answer. Whose question was that, Khalid, about academia and industries not collaborating?
Yeah, that was
Dr.
Pravesh Sheikh at IIT Delhi.
Ravish?
Yeah, he's not here. We have lost him. So he did join back.
Because I wanted to ask him what kind of collaboration that he has in his mind that is not able to be executed. So that maybe we can discuss more along those lines, how those can be done. So that's what I thought. Maybe once he's back, we can ask the question and then build on that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Dr. Aparna, we have a lot of questions that always come to us. I would just rephrase it. There are a lot of people who are, sorry, who are from pharma background, who are from biotechnology background, biochemistry background, clinical biochemistry background. And they often ask us, for instance, I as a candidate, what should I do to get, for instance, a short-term internship, or for instance, a thesis with an industry particularly? And also, at the same time, what career advice do you have to these kind of students who are in their either the fag end of their masters, or they are at the fag end of their bachelors?
Right.
Two different questions. You can answer them separately.
Sure. So the first thing is about how do we get these internship opportunities, right? Like I said, I will also share some links, but even if we, just Google in the clinical trial industry internship opportunities in India, there are a lot of resources that come up. And like when I was even in 2006, I was able to apply to an internship in AstraZeneca, and I actually got it, but I did not end up going there because I had accepted an academic internship before that. So unfortunately, I couldn't go there. But there are such opportunities open, and so people should explore and keep their CVs updated, and be proactive and apply in time to those opportunities, because the screening for those opportunities would also take a few months, right? So like if you're planning for your summer, then try to take a look few months before that and then start applying. Like look at the deadlines, be familiar with the deadlines for these applications. Of course, a lot of academic internships are also there, the IAS and other things where you have to write proposal, and then based on that, you will be selected and be assigned to various research institutes within India. But for industry internships, there are options like these where you can also apply online. Plus, if you know, because in core sponsor companies, like except for top tier institutes, they do not take people for internships. It is not that very common. But in clinical research organizations and in like hospitals and research sites, you can still explore. Like I would not say it is very easy to get. You might need to have certain contacts. You might need to navigate your way through, but be persistent and continue to try. Give it a try for these opportunities. So that is one question. I think I answered the first question. The second one is who are there in the fag end of their degrees, what is the advice? Okay, who are already there in the fag end, and maybe they have not done much towards this transition. Is that? I think I would still go with the first few steps, right? Do your background work, like attending these, these sessions. Understand what are the different types of roles that are there in the non-academic career options, and learn more about those either by doing your own homework or by having informational interviews with people. And before even you have your information interview, have this background work done, jot down a few really meaningful questions when you schedule that informational interview with someone. Then further hone to 1 to 3 roles that you want to, that you think would be the right fit for you. And then either go back to those people who you did information interviews with. That is also your network, right? Go through them to see whether they can refer you to a position, or at least they can tell you, okay, these are some open positions. And like one more advice, like how, you want to apply and then you just contact someone from the company and say, can you refer me? That's a no, right? Similar to that, I was going to say something and that slipped my mind.
It will come back.
Yeah.
Don't write an email to.
No problem at all. Yeah. So we had a similar kind of question from Insha Mushtaq. Insha has asked exactly a question that you just answered. Insha, if you have any other question, you can directly interact with Aparna, or if it's done, we can move ahead. Insha Mushtaq, do you have any other question?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Insha. Dr. Aparna, I mean, okay, Anuj, we'll get back to you in a moment. Dr. Aparna, I mean, when we look at your profile, we see that you have a diverse background in academia, research, and then in industry also. And when we see majority of the people who approach us at JK Scientists for, say, helping them with mentorship in order to get an admission at master's level or PhD level, we see that their CVs are plain in a manner that they do not have workshop, they have not attended workshops, or they have not attended an internship, or I mean something similar. So how important is it for students, particularly who are interested in research or who are interested in moving to from academia to industry? How important are internships? How important are these workshops in their CVs, and so that their CVs look better to their PIs or industry?
So definitely internships are make your CV very attractive and make you stand out. Plus you actually, it's not just for the sake of certification or sake of internship, you should have actually gained something from that. So you are able to talk about it in your interview. And that really adds value to, you should be able to take the relevant technical and soft skills that you gathered from that internship for the current job. Because maybe that internship is not at all relevant in any way to your current job, then maybe that's not very important. But there may be some parts, if you think about it, there may be still some transferable skills that you took from that internship that you can make it relevant to this job. So So those are very important. And I actually remembered what I was going to say. The other big no-no is that, ma'am, I'm trying to, this is what I'm, like I graduated. Can you tell me what are the open positions in your company? Right? I mean, as much as people want to genuinely help you, they don't have the time to go through your CV and then think for you what kind of jobs that you should apply, right? Unless you're very close to that person and you have developed that kind of relationship already, then they may be able to advise or suggest you. But people want to see that you have done your own homework. You know what you want to do. Okay, this is what I've done. This is what I've looked at. These are some of the positions that I think may be suitable. I want to understand more about those roles. Can you give 5 or 10 minutes of your time? Then I think people would be more interested in responding, right? So yeah, that was another point that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I think their priority, they think that it's our priority at that particular time. So this thing, we are also telling our students that what is priority number one for you may not be a priority number one for your mentor. So at that time, so I think they need to understand that also, that someone who is giving you time, you have to be appreciative of that person, because we have just 24 hours in a day, and then we have to cater to so many things. But if someone is giving you few minutes of his or her time, be appreciative of that. Yes.
Definitely, and make it easy for them to help you by doing your
Yes.
own homework and
having
a clear set of questions in mind, right?
Yeah. We have been getting these types of requests on a daily basis, that I have done my graduation. What do you suggest now? How am I going to know what interests you are having? Or like, we don't know anything. It's just a question in the air. So we can like correlate with this question. Yeah. Khalid, next one.
Yeah, Anuj is back with us, but I think you just answered Dr. Aparna his question. Anuj, your question related to the emergency use of vaccines and drugs has just been answered by Dr. Aparna. If you still want to interact with Dr. Aparna.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for that mishappening and all. Actually, I don't that much get what you have said about it, but I have a concern that because nowadays there is we are in the phase 2 drug trials, and we are just going for the emergency use of that vaccine or drugs, just like vaccine in case of this COVID. And then after we are having this phase 3 and phase 4, because the drugs are going through a phases. And if there is a anemia is happening or some cross reactivity in phase 3 trials, and then what we have these regulatory affairs and all that comes into force, because we are just relying on the phase 2 trial drug results and all that. So I have a concern about that. So that's why I asked that during this clinical trial management, is it okay to go for emergency use after second phase only, or do we have to wait for that third and fourth phase as well?
Like yeah, that is a great question, and of course that is a question of contention and controversy always in the field, right? Because we are talking about an emergency situation, we are talking about safety and efficacy, and we are talking about balancing risk versus benefit, where the time is also an additional added constraint to the complexity that's already existing. So emergency use of authorization, emergency use authorization itself is a regulatory mechanism where it is a little bit different from your regular regulatory mechanisms to allow the use of vaccines and other medicines to actually prevent or reduce the impact of a life-threatening disease. And especially if it is a pandemic, we need to come up with certain regulatory mechanisms without compromising the safety or efficacy. So there still needs to be rigorous assessments of the clinical trial data, and the data quality should not be compromised, safety should not be compromised. But there are certain criteria that we need to make sure are taken into account to enable the use authorization where the benefits still outweigh the risks. I mean, of course, it is not an ideal scenario, right? No scenario will be ideal. It will not be black and white. It will still be gray. But we need to make, and these are tough decisions. So we need to make sure that still the clinical trial is conducted in as rigorous way as possible. Quality is not compromised, safety is not compromised, but with available data, available constraints, what is the best risk-benefit assessment we're able to do? Does the benefit still outweigh risks? Then yes, we have to go for it.
Yeah, I think the perfect example will be the COVID vaccine from JJ. It was put under hold. I'm not remembering which one was that, but there were like, I think 3 cases with severe side effects, and it was put on hold. And once they saw that out of thousands of cases, just 3 cases are there, then they removed that ban. So risks and benefits are a greater like points to be considered. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And because I have asked this same question to academician as well with related to this, and the same answer they have given to, yeah, we have to go for, in order to get rid of these kind of pandemics and all that, we have this regulatory affairs. And yeah, she also told that this is a double-edged sword. Either we have to go this way or that way, but we have to go with that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for this session. And thanks to Dr. Khalid for providing an opportunity to interact with such a stalwarts of this the pharmaceutical industry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anuj. You are our valuable member and you have been with us for a long period of time. Dr. Aparna, I would kindly request you to have a look at the chat box. Dr. Insha Mushtaq has asked one more question. And till the moment you have a look at her question, I would add up to that question. Insha, I mean, primarily talking about my workplace and other IITs and NITs, we have a summer internship program for 2 months. I think that would be kind of feasible for students based in Valley also. And all the internships that we offer at IITs and NITs, I don't know about NIT Srinagar, but at my workplace, we offer 2 months internship, which is paid in a sense that out of my own lab money, we'll pay students, for instance, 3,000 or 5,000, and we will give them boarding as well. But they have to bear the expenses of the mess. That means the food at the hostel. That's what we do at NITs and primarily at most of the IITs and NITs also. Dr. Aparna, would you like to add up something to this question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Khalid, for adding on to that. Like I said, there are a lot of, maybe the link what I gave is actually from 2017. There may be an updated one, but
yeah, I'll just mail it to all the guys who have joined still.
Sure, even if we search, I mean, even if we Google for such opportunities, there are a lot of opportunities coming up. But in core sponsor companies, there might still be lesser opportunities, but there are a lot more in contract research organizations and in the, like say, cancer institutes or Tata Research Institute, where you can try to get an internship or just shadow someone who is doing something related to clinical trial, even from the site's perspective or from the CRO's perspective. But there are also opportunities in the pharmaceutical companies as well, which either you can just apply online, or if you know someone, something through contacts, then you can go there, because those were the ways how I did when I was in undergrad. And I don't think with respect to those approaches, nothing much has changed. Maybe the opportunities have increased a little bit more now, but yeah. Because maybe you need someone with influence to go somewhere, or maybe you need someone who knows someone really well in a particular company for you to be able to get that opportunity. So definitely networking plays a role everywhere. And I think in the previous generation, when we think about networking or recommendation, we used to think that, like it is not very good. I should not go by recommendation, but I should go because of my qualification. But I think that mindset, there has been a mindset shift, and that should change, because there's nothing wrong about networking or recommending. And if you if you do a good job, the people would vouch for you and people would be happy to recommend you. People would be happy to sponsor for you. Yeah, so there's nothing wrong about in going through someone, because that's just how it works. And like I said, if you don't have the qualification or if you don't have the skill sets, just because of like people will not easily recommend you, obviously, right? Because they are putting their credibility in line to recommend you. So so if someone is recommending you, you can be confident that it is because of your qualification and yeah, like your contributions.
Yeah, I think the word like networking, the meaning of that word has also changed. Like if I want to have a reference from someone, so it's not that the person will know me personally. Previously it was like that, like I know her personally. But if it is through your work, like I got recommended through my work because there it's more genuine because they don't know me personally. So they know me by my work. So that should be taken into consideration, that whatever you do, however you have built a relationship with that person, so that should be professional and only professional, and then the person will vouch for you.
Yeah, Insha, I hope we have answered your question. If you still want to ask anything, you can interact.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, partly it did, but my question was in context of like we have different session in Kashmir as compared to the rest part of India. Most of the time goes off during the winter time, and most of the research opportunities or like internship opportunities come up during the summertime. And also rest part of India, they have these companies coming on campus and giving students different opportunities. So how many companies do go to Kashmiri campuses in order to make their appearance among the Kashmiri students? So that's where my concern is.
So you're saying that if traveling outside Kashmir is
Actually,
hard,
Aparna, I mean,
opportunity.
Dr. Aparna, sorry to interrupt you. If I give a brief background, actually, the academic calendar in J&K universities is a bit different than rest of the country. In the rest of the country, we have, for instance, we have a summer break in the mainland India for 2 months in say May and June, but we have that in December and January in J&K. So it's kind of a mix up for the students who study in a university, say in Kashmir. So they cannot do a summer internship, for instance, at your company, for example. So that kind of adds to the worries of students based in Kashmir. So that's the
Yeah, that's
context
a
of
great question, and that's a very genuine challenge, right? So I don't know how systemically we'll be able to address that. But just for me, for my understanding and information as well, are there would the universities be open for people to still go, like take a break from their semester and go for the regular summer internships, but kind of make up for the courses? Because for us, we had option that our final semester, for our final semester, we had the option that we could take additional courses in the previous semesters and make ourselves free for the final semester, and go outside and do internships. Yeah, I mean, like that's a great question. And unless
what I also feel, Dr. Aparna, I would like to add up. I mean, since I worked both in universities in Kashmir and then I moved outside, the place where I'm currently working is a choice-based credit system. So we allow students to take, for instance, only 4 credits in this semester, but which is not true with most of the universities. For example, if I'm not sure where Insha is currently studying, so it will not be possible for her to just choose, for example, 6 credits out of mandatory 16 credits. So that's also a problem with students. But I just have I would like to add up, Insha. It's not always necessary that you do an internship in the midst of your this degree course. You can also opt for an internship, which is, for instance, also spanning over a period of 6 months also, or 2 months after you finish your this degree. Or even you can maybe I'm not sure in academia, but maybe in industries you might have a short internship also for instance, 2 weeks or this 3 weeks also, which you need to explore also.
Yes, I
I'm
feel,
not sure what.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
sorry, Insha, if I may add a little bit here, especially in the last 2 years after COVID, we've realized how much of things can still be done remotely, right? Everything works, like everything, maybe not everything, but most of the things in these regular companies, IT companies, pharma companies, everything happens remotely, right? Unless there are some jobs where you need to show up in person. So maybe it's a good thing to also explore remote opportunities where you can read upon some things or shadow someone else's work through online calls and do some hands-on assignments or works for them. So maybe those are also some strategies to keep in mind and explore, especially with the challenging situation that you mentioned.
And to add on, like Insha was saying, that sponsors or the industries don't come to the campuses. So that is what JK Scientist is trying to be a link between different people who have influence in that industry, and then connect the students back home. So you don't need a campus, you don't need a personal physical presence in there. So all these sessions we are doing just to open up different career opportunities for the students. So in whatever way we can help them to get internship or to get into the different industries. So we are trying our level best to narrow that gap. So because there are challenges in Kashmir, and we know all of them. We all know what is there. So use this platform if you want, if you know someone like who can be our speaker. So just initiate that thing. Like Aparna was there, so I had to like, I'm thankful to her that she gave us this much of time, like 1.5 hours. So but there are people who want to help Kashmiri students, and we want to utilize them, so get active in this group and tell us what to do.
Yeah, in fact, we get more ideas. I mean, I mean, in spite of the fact that we know that this is a problem, but it never came to our mind. Largely because most of the students who I would also like to add up. We had a JK Scholars program recently, which was the coordinators were director himself and Asif Bakshi, who is our core member. I think they helped around 10 or 12 students getting internships at some of the best places in the country.
Yeah,
if
some
not
of the
industries,
best
but
ones.
but academia.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like sometimes with sponsor companies, it's also that they would have a certain aspect of confidentiality, and their opportunities for internship might be much lesser than in academia. But there are to also go back to a previous question, that how important are internships or those experiences, right? Yes, they are important, but what if you're not able to get that because of other constraints or circumstances? Would it still not make you a good candidate? Not necessarily. Do whatever is there within your purview. Like still you can do certain short courses in LinkedIn or Coursera, and you can put them on your CV. Keep your online presence clean. Keep your LinkedIn profile updated. And in India, I've heard that a lot of people have got calls just by uploading a really good CV or resume in Naukri or Monster.com, even without having networking at all. Plus, then what if you get an interview? What if the interviewer says, oh, but it is just a coursework or certification that you've done. It is not an experience. But then you need to be able to really politely but confidently pitch in that, yes, maybe I was not able to do an interview itself, but because I have this interest, I have invested this time to, that shows my interest and commitment in me wanting to move into this area. And it has also helped me gain knowledge in this area. And I have a good learning agility, and I'm really excited about this. So I want to take it up and perform well. So it is also about how you're pitching confidently in the interviews with whatever skill sets and experiences you have.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you so much. We had a lot of discussion over Insha's comment. Dr. Zaida, I mean, I think we are running out of time and we have answered most of the questions today.
So yeah, lastly, what's your advice to like our young students in Jammu and Kashmir, basically, because our system is not that efficient, or our education system is a rod, basically, and we are getting only the knowledge is not there, but education is there, I mean to say. So how can we mold this new generation? Like what can, and especially Jammu Kashmir scientist group, how can we be more involved in the students' life so that we see a very bright future of Jammu and Kashmir students?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I feel that even like having this organization of JK Scientific, so many supporters, so many volunteers, even like that shows how much of work is being done in this area, right? And so many people are attending such sessions. So I think that in itself is a great leap in making a transformation for the young students and professionals in Jammu and Kashmir. And I feel, again, reiterating my points mentioned before, in this day and age, a lot of things are being done remotely. So despite your constraints, like, the academic cycles and not being able to travel, try to see if there are any remote opportunities to develop certain skills, because even your ultimate job profile of being a regulatory writer or being in data management, even that work itself can be done remotely, right? So so the preparation for that work can also be done remotely. So so definitely follow your dreams, be clear about what you want to do, and have the passion and work hard towards it. And if you're doing a good job, people will see it. And in this day and age, your online presence shows a lot about you, right? So you can still contribute using your blogs or other things of your interest and knowledge in that particular area. People will notice that, and you will be able to, like reach where you want to go. And the other thing is that when you're applying in a certain company or looking for a certain opportunity, make sure that your mission, vision, and values resonate with that of the company to help both your growth and that of the companies, and that of the patients who we are all ultimately aiming to serve. Plus, again, keep your LinkedIn profile updated, keep your online presence clean, and you can do a lot of things online and you can do a lot of things remotely. So just try to think differently, think out of the box, and don't look at things that are not there, or don't look at the constraints. See what can be done amidst the constraints, and I'm sure you will have future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Aparna, for your time on this weekend. Khalid.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aparna, for being with us today. We highly appreciate your presence, the talk with us. Dr. Zaida, also, we thank you for being with us early morning. We are really thankful, Dr. Aparna, for giving this time to us and discussing everything in so much detail, and attending to the these questions and queries of our students. And we hope that we can disturb you again in the future, and we'll have more sessions with you, Dr. Aparna. I would like to thank you on behalf of entire JK scientists for giving us this opportunity. And also I would like to thank my teammates, Dr. Zaida, Dr. Mir Zuhurgul, Dr. Saima, Dr. Asif, and Umayya Muzaffar at Outreach, who have been doing wonderful in 2021 and 2022 as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Aparna. And
thank you.
Thanks everyone for being a great audience. It was my absolute pleasure being here. Thanks
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.